I'm Jim Browdy. She's Marjorie Egan. We're broadcasting live from Manchester, New Hampshire, where our guest just said it's like the day of the locusts up here. Chris Matthews is the host of MSNBC's great show, Hardball. I would argue it's the second best show at 7 p.m. in Boston. Would you not agree, Marjorie?
Well, you know, he is on at 7 o'clock in Boston. Chris Matthews.
Chris Matthews,
it's
great to see you. How are you, Chris?
It's hard to compete against local.
Exactly.
And MSNBC's got that great location right down the hall in the bar room, JD.
Yeah, I've been doing this show there for 4 or 5 days and staying here till midnight, doing other things after debates and things.
It's really fun. It's really
and tomorrow
fun.
night, I guess we'll be here till 2 in the morning. Who knows?
Exactly. So, Chris Matthews, let's start with what Bill Clinton has been up to. A lot of talk about him being in that Milford, New Hampshire gymnasium, criticizing people that were going after young women for not being with Hillary, talking about women online supporting Hillary and being subjected to vicious trolling. What do you make of this? I mean, there's a lot of comparison to this in 2008 and Barack Obama.
Well, which way do you want me to talk about it? From Bill's point of view or from the people that do this stuff? Because
we can take it either way.
Well, first of all, there are a lot of people out there that don't have much morality in the way they deal in life. They just are nasty people, and they think anything goes. You know, there have been people calling in phony fire alarms for years since they were kids. People do bad things when they get the anonymity. Anonymity is a horrible thing for some people. They'll say terrible things to you. They'll leave messages for you. People hide behind their nobodiness, and then they really are not good people about it.
These are the trollers that have been going after.
I'm talking about life. I'm talking about the world we live in. It's a reality. Look at you write a newspaper column and you kill yourself spending a half a day or a day writing a really good column based on years of experience, and all you have after it is a series of comments that the newspaper puts out.
Yep.
In other words, you kill yourself writing a column, and all these people that have never given a thought to anything except anger get their stuff tagging along. And sometimes the headline is based on something said in the comment.
Okay, so that's the perspective.
So in other words, there are people, these Bernie bros or whatever, they don't surprise me. They're of a kind.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there like that.
But that's Bill Clinton, the husband kind of thing, reacted to that, you could say, the politician.
I think it's very frustrating for him right now because I think Trump basically rammed him out of the campaign. He jammed him out.
Well,
and I think
because of the sex stuff.
Yeah, they withdrew him from the campaign and must drive him crazy that he's been told or he's figured out that every time he shows up, at least in that atmosphere, that he would be nailed by the Trump charge of abuse of women and all that stuff that Trump had nailed him with. So he was basically shut out. And then he went out yesterday. I was there, and I watched. I just couldn't listen anymore. I heard a State of the Union address from Bill. He was talking about every topic in the universe. I said, I've heard enough. This is a get out the vote canvassing effort. Why is he doing this?
But how about going after Bernie Sanders?
That came after I left. I read about it this morning because it was way into the conversation. All I can tell you is that he spent the first part of the speech yesterday very defensively saying that his wife had very good numbers when she left the Secretary of State job. And he said the Republicans have spent billions of dollars since to drag her down as a nominee. And so that's the way the Clintons look at things.
But they
always look at it that way.
He's also saying that Sanders and his supporters are unfairly trying to bring her down. And the comparison that's being made, I want to know if you think it's fair, is with what Bill Clinton said both in Dartmouth, New Hampshire, the day before the primary, the fantasy of Barack Obama, and the South Carolina. Well, Jesse Jackson won South Carolina. Is this 2008 Redux?
Well, of course, the media will say that this is the same thing. I think the frustration's the same thing. I think that they don't like to lose. And I think he knows they're going to lose up here, and I think badly. Bernie's support is joyous. It's ideological from his point of view. To the people voting for him, it's not necessarily ideological, but from his point of view, he's a confirmed socialist. He's offering all these government solutions. We used to call it big government liberalism. He's got an old word for it, socialism. Big government liberalism means if you got a problem, the federal government's going to solve it with lots of taxpayer money. And so we're going to get free college tuition, university tuition at state universities, which is a hell of a deal. We're going to get 3% interest, whatever. We're going to have a vast reduction in our student loan bills. And we're going to get massive new increase in Social Security benefits and health care for life under something called Medicare for life. Wait a minute. Medicare is 50 years of paying into something from the time you have a paper route till you finally retire from a job you don't like. 50 years of paying in, so you get maybe, if you're a male, 10, 15 years of medical care. That's the Medicare model. To misappropriate that and say, I'm going to give you Medicare for life is a misappropriation of the word. Medicare that Kennedy and Johnson put together was work 50 years and get a few years in your retirement of health care. And then to say, Medicare for life, well, where's the work come into this? Where's where's the money come from?
Chris Matthews, every voter is not sitting down, you know this better than anybody, and doing the kind of analysis you just did.
No, they're saying yes.
You asked Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Wasn't your question to Hillary, how can you compete with a revolution? That's how people see this thing.
And also, it's kids who are 18 or 19, if you face a student loan debt like my daughter-in-law got coming out of law school, it's so enormous that your first experience with capitalism is debt. It's not capitalism, it's being a debtor. Now, if you were hit with a 90% tax rate coming out of college, you'd be a right-winger. You'd be a libertarian. So their first experience with ideology is, this sucks. This sucks. I'm coming out of college owing a fortune. I can't get a job I want. I can't join the Peace Corps. I can't do anything. I can't teach. I got to go make some money to pay this thing off. Or I can vote for this guy, Bernie,
and
who I never heard of before. Never heard of the guy, but he comes around the corner and says, I'll give you all this free.
So Chris Matthews, he has predicted.
This is what Roosevelt used to make fun of, by the way, about the Republicans. They said, he used to have this great speech he gave, and the Republicans promised to do everything we do, and they'll do it for nothing, and it won't cost you anything. And Roosevelt would have had a good time of putting away Bernie.
So, Chris Matthews, we know that Bernie Sanders is expected anyway to do very well in New Hampshire. He's expected to do very well even among women. And as you point out, Hillary Clinton up here at least is competing.
Well, Hillary's got her own problems, by the way. They have nothing to do with Bernie.
But before we move on to Hillary's own problems, does this transfer, does this revolution give you all this
Bernie,
stuff
let me
for
tell
free?
You, Bernie I saw him in a room recently, 3 or 4 days ago. Fantastic. In a room with 200 people at breakfast, with everybody quietly sitting there, he's fantastic. He doesn't come across as ideological. He comes off as logical. He ties everything into this one unitary theory, which most minds appreciate. A unitary theory. It's all Citizens United. It's the billionaires who now control our political process.
The billionaires.
And therefore they control everything. And by the way, it has a simplicity to it. And by the way, and to keep people like Hillary Clinton off their back, they give them speaking fees. The trouble with Hillary, there's no answer to that. She has no defense. You take $250,000 a speech. I'm sorry, it's a $600,000 question. Why'd you take the money? Because you wanted it. It wasn't for children. It wasn't for the good of the country. You want it in the bank.
Hey, but Chris Matthews,
and so that's the problem here. Hillary's problem is she doesn't have what the French would call a raison d'etre. What is her reason to run? She has not voiced it. Why is she running? She'll give you answers, but they aren't reasons. What is her central?
I assume she would say to expand upon the great successes of her predecessor, Barack Obama. Isn't that her thing?
That's a developed campaign argument. That's the kind of thing you develop with your consultants. It's not something that comes from the heart. He wants to basically bring socialism to the country. I understand what he's doing.
I think the best answer of what Hillary's got is.
And he does believe in redistribution of wealth.
Listen to this, Chris Matthews. This is from Time correspondent in Washington. He called Jay Newton Small, I should give him credit. Bernie's like getting swept off your feet on the first date. Hillary Clinton is like going out with an actuary who's planning your mortgage payments and retirement funds over dinner. He's all dreams, she's all pragmatism. That's kind of it, isn't it?
That's it.
That's it, perfectly.
I think that the word that we were all looking for is joy.
Yeah.
And I talked to a guy who's married a couple of times, and I'm always curious about the second marriage. I go, because everybody thinks about that. What would it be like to do it with somebody else? And he said, a lot more joy.
Really?
Of course, that wife divorced him later, but that's
good.
All right. No, it's a lot more joy. No, I'm serious about this because joy is what Bernie brings to the game. It's what Donald Trump brings to the game. Focus and joy. Bernie brings socialism, and it's not a bad word to the people voting for him.
Yeah.
They don't find any antipathy toward it. So he brings socialism. It's a simple answer. The government will solve your problems. Big government will come in. Everybody knows it's not that good. And he works with the Veterans Administration. Why does he think it's so good? Big government liberalism, I know, has a new name, socialism. But it's big government liberalism. Trump is at least as smart, although he's uneven. He's a mixed bag. His message is nationalism. Nationalism.
Yeah.
The big shots have betrayed this country on immigration, on trade, on wars. They've betrayed us in both parties. And either we have a country or we don't. It's his best line. Either we have a country or we don't. And Trump is so good on the nationalism. I'm afraid he does. Not afraid. I suspect he doesn't know how good that message is.
Well, also the other night when he
But
was...
they're both clear-headed, and both they bring joy. People come out of a Trump. I'm laughing at Trump. Everybody behind the scenes on television, we're always laughing because he's fun.
He's fun. And also the other night in the debate when he was booed, talking about how he didn't want the...
He's so smart.
He got booed because he
in a
said
million
the donors,
years,
the
in a
money
million
people
years,
are booing.
Hillary wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
In a million years, Trump would have thought. He listens with his tongue, an old Irish phrase. He had heard that audience, and he knew exactly what to react. If he says something that works, he looks at the audience and says, am I right, Joe? You're one of my guys, aren't you? He's always looking to the audience and listening to them. He listens with his tongue. He tries out things. He's like a stand-up comic. He is so good in interaction. Hillary comes out there. Rubio comes out there with that tape of his in his head. That tape, that replicant thing where it just repeats itself and repeats it. He doesn't hear the audience. He's listening to some message written for the neocons, something to get Sheldon Adelson to give him a couple $1 billion. That's what he's writing. This will work for them. I will now repeat it again and again and again. That's what he does.
Shelley Adelson, we should just say, is the Dorchester kid who now owns the Sands and is given tens of millions to Republicans.
So if it does end up being Hillary versus Donald Trump and they're on a debate stage together.
Yeah, that'd be the tortoise in the hare, wouldn't it?
It would be the tortoise in the hare, but who wins the debate between Hillary and Donald? You
on
just
a good
talked
night
about
Trump, on a bad night Hillary for him. But
Okay.
she will always have the same pretty good night.
Yeah.
Against Bernie the other night, she was really good.
She was really good.
But I think she didn't win. She was at her best of her game. See,
she didn't win because the artful smear thing, because she got angry, or
No,
why didn't she
no,
win?
that was planned.
Thing.
Well, no, but why didn't she win?
Because there's two ways to approach an issue in politics. I think I learned this in 1972 or something. You either grab the issue or you handle it.
Yeah.
She handles issues. Okay, that's a hot potato. Here's my answer. And you cherry pick that one thing I said where I was a moderate. That's the kind of thing you work on in a hotel room with just 3 or 4 smart people for hours till you finally get the answer, which is, okay, say it was a cherry pick. Or by your definition of progressive, the following people don't meet that standard. These are the kind of things you work at with consultants and their answers, but they're handling an issue. You don't win with it. You fend off an attack.
Well, how did she handle the Wall Street issue? Is there any way to dig out of that one?
There's no answer on the $600,000 question because it's personal interest, self-interest. I think the Clintons believe in their souls that their years of public service earned them the right for repayment.
Yeah,
and I really believe that. And also, they went to school with a lot of people that grabbed every nickel they could get their hands on. And they probably look at how much money those have made. You know, I remember this great line. Which one of the Marx brothers? Oh, yeah. He said, was it Chico? He said, it was Chico. He said, he lost all his money gambling. And then somebody said, how much money have you made in your career? He said, how much have you lost gambling? He said, how much does Groucho have?
Oh, God.
And,
That's great.
And I think they spend their lives hanging around with people at Martha's Vineyard, with these super successful Wall Street types. And they probably say, I have given the money they've made to public service. Now it's my turn to hit the till. Don't you? Doesn't everybody? Margie, don't you think that's it? Am I telling you anything everybody listening doesn't know?
Except that they've got tens of millions of dollars already. I mean, how much do they need?
They got it from BPR. Well, because they've got people working for them who help grab every nickel they can for them, and they like it.
Well, let's talk about the GOP side for a second. You know, Trump.
But by the way,
what?
let's not nail her. What did Ronald Reagan do the minute he left the White House?
We're not giving speeches.
He went to Japan for
Japan,
$2 million.
right.
$2 million bucks.
Yeah, yep.
That's
They
a
all
hell
do
of a
it.
payment.
By the way, that was after he left the White House.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he didn't have influence anymore as opposed to the influence she would prospectively have.
His influence.
What's that?
Maybe
he'd already given. That's a fine point.
So let's talk about the GOP.
You mean the trade deal?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that it's all about his. This isn't the private sector. None of these people go into the private sector. It's always hugging the public sector. It's always about influence.
Well, it's hard.
And by the way, U.S. Congress people up here, and my own company, you can't make a nickel in outside income with NBC now or MSNBC, even if you give the whole nickel to charity. You can't do any of that anymore. Nobody in Congress can take a nickel in outside income because even though whatever it is, Ed Muskie I worked for years. Ed Muskie went and give a Jewish bond drive dinner for $10,000, and he'd give a hell of a speech, a barn burner, and I think he earned the $10K. But you know, it all smelled. It all smelled. And so they said, we're not taking any more money from outside because everybody thinks you're on the take. And everybody thinks after you get the $200,000 that they have your phone number. Yeah. Everybody believes that.
So it's a good thing that you're not taking outside money.
No, I think it's I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but people are always going to suspect you're on the take.
Okay. So can we talk
Did you
about...
I want to talk about Trump. Are you going to talk about Trump?
I was going to talk about the GOP.
No,
go
you
ahead.
did. Did you miss the Trump phenomenon? David Axelrod wrote a piece a couple Sundays ago. I'm sure you saw it. Say I was dismissive of Donald Trump. I missed this. I missed
Well,
that.
let him speak for himself. I wasn't dismissive.
Did you?
I love these guys that say we all were dismissive. No, we weren't. A lot of us saw Trump in all his mixed bag brilliance.
But did you, even though you saw, well, tell me what you saw. And
I've
if
been
you
on
saw,
the air every night. Everybody knows what I say.
Yeah, but maybe some people might have missed you at 7
No, they didn't.
o'clock.
No, they made a mistake and watched it. Okay.
So you've talked about, you wrote a great piece about coming up here when you were a kid in the 50s and going to the farm and all that, and you've covered this place forever. Tell us about how different it is now from then. I mean, it seems to me like it's just one big gang, whatever.
Well,
you know
the
what
great
I mean?
thing about it is that people in New Hampshire are citizens first, and politicians are political partisans second. And I mean that. They, like my parents, our parents, they went to vote. They believed in voting like going to church every Sunday. You voted, and then you thought about who you're going to vote for. But you decided to vote as a citizen first. This is really different. Today, everybody's passionate about something. I'm so passionate. Running around, I go to caucuses. You know, everybody's an activist now. But they used to just be citizens, and they're better as citizens than being an activist. Regular people who sit down and think rationally say, okay, I'm a Republican, it's 1952. Eisenhower, he received the Nazi surrender. Taft, give me a break. We're running Eisenhower. So you sit down. Henry Cabot Lodge in 1964. Better him than Goldwater or Rockefeller. Both of them are out to lunch. I want this guy. I think that the gritty, rooting for Hillary up here last time around 8 years ago, when she seemed to be showing some humanity up against a guy who was showing some hubris. Yeah, let's knock that guy down a couple pegs, and let's give it to her. We'll shake this thing up. We'll slow it down. I think there's some conscious thinking up here and gritty self-reliance. I mean, it's conservative.
Yep.
I mean, Tip O'Neill, my boss for all those years, said that they don't even like parks up there. You know, we don't like any kind of public activity. So I think that thoughtful, and also the putting on the brakes from Iowa is always a good thing. Out there, they're all evangelicals, some homeschoolers. There's some strangeness out there.
Yeah.
And the fact that supposedly Cruz won. Okay, Cruz won on the numbers, and he won. But he got 2/3 of the people who vote in the Republican caucus out there are evangelicals. You know, you take the church bus to the voting booth.
Yeah, not here.
It's a little scary. This is more like England.
Yeah.
It's secular. It's thoughtful, and I think everybody, it's live free or die. I don't know what the granite state means. I think live free or die means something to me.
Chris Matthews.
I'm a big believer in this place. And by the way, you put McCain back up there, and you saw through W's nothingness. You saw right through it. I had my daughter with me, who was about 8 at the time. He said, Dad, you know the difference between Bill Bradley and W? Bradley has something to say.
Wow.
All W could say was, well, like you, Joe, I married up. I mean, this Texas crap. I've been hearing it ever since LBJ, him and Connolly and Bob Strauss, and they all learned the same stupid joke. Yeah, I guess I married up. Corn pone. It's corn pone. Okay. And you guys up here saw right through the corn pone and said, no way this W should be president of the United States. And you were so right.
Chris
Philadelphia
Matthews.
boy, Chris Matthews, speaking from the heart.
Nice to see you, Chris.
Thank you very
it's great
much.
To be up here. The weather matches the mood, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does.
It's like Worcester all those years at Holy Cross. You know.
Absolutely. Holy Cross is looking pretty good these days.
The sun comes back in May.
Chris Matthews, host of Hardball on MSNBC. Thank you very much
Good
for
to
taking
see
the
you,
time to be with us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Marcia.